Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Raus IAS Study Circle. Join the official Telegram channel of Raus IAS Study Circle to stay updated and get all the materials on the Telegram. The link to the channel can be found in the description box. Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading from our UPSC Civil Services examination perspective. Now today let us take up some of the important news appearing in the Hindu newspaper dated 25th October 2021 from the New Delhi edition. The news to be discussed has been displayed on your screen and time stamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. So on this note, let's start our today's discussion from our UPSC Prelims and Mains point of view. Now in continuation with the series of discussion on questions asked by UPSC in the Prelims of 2021, let's take up a question on history asked as question number 46 in set A. The question was, who among the following was associated as secretary with Hindu female school which later came to be known as the Bethune female school? Options were A. Annie Besant, B. Debendranath Tagore, C. Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar and D. Sarojini Naidu. Now let's look at this question asked in the Prelims test series with respect to modern India. The question asked in the PTS was, which of the following statements are correct? First, it was due to Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar's active mobilization of support that Widows Remarriage Act was passed in 1856, legalizing all widow remarriages. Second, with the help of Bethune, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar set up many schools devoted specially to the girl child. And third, Keshav Chandra Sen took the activities of Brahmo Samaj beyond Bengal and into Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Madras and Bombay. So the question was, select the correct answer using the code given below. Now in this the correct answer was D. That is, all of these statements were correct. And in this regard, if you had attempted this question, you would have known about the Bethune school with respect to Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Now the question asked by UPSC was rather simpler, directly associating the Bethune school with Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. So obviously the correct answer here becomes C, which is Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. So the purpose of this discussion is to tell you the importance of various sources of Raus IAS, for example, Prelims test series, which directly asked a question associated with Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar and Bethune school. So had you attempted this question in the Prelims test series, it would have become easier to solve this particular question asked in the section of history. The first news to be discussed appears on page number 1 and also in continuation appears on page number 10. Now the news says China's new law formalizes its LAC actions. So this news highlights that China's legislature has adopted a new border law which will take effect on 1st January. So this new law calls on the state, that is the country, and also its military to safeguard their territory, especially along the border areas. And with respect to safeguarding the territory, including the border areas, the military can combat any acts which undermine China's claim. Now, so far we all know that India and China have disputed border territory not only along Jammu and Kashmir and the Ladakh region, but also in the northeast along Arunachal area. And it is in this regard that the Chinese government has been carrying on infrastructural development along the autonomous Tibet region. And these infrastructural development includes construction of highways and also railway lines. So it is in this regard this news becomes important from the perspective of security along the border areas, especially between India and China, as their new law also aims to formalize China's action in disputed territories, especially along the border with India and Bhutan. So this means that whatever action or whatever disputed action Chinese military has taken so far and whatever ground they have covered so far, they want to formalize it as its border. Now this action of China impacts India's territorial integrity and sovereignty. So this new law which Chinese government aims to adopt may further deteriorate the relation between China and India, and we may further see more clashes along the border areas between Chinese army and Indian army. So it is with respect to India's territorial claim and border disputes, this particular news becomes important from the perspective of GS paper 3 under security. So when China legitimizes its disputed claim on Indian territory, then we may see increased troops mobilization across India-China border, including Arunachal Pradesh. And India may also witness more transgressions by the Chinese army even beyond LAC. So this becomes very challenging for the government of India, especially against an invasive Chinese army. Now the problem not only ends with respect to increased transgressions along the LAC areas. This new law of China further authorizes state to take appropriate measures to safeguard their territorial sovereignty and land boundaries, and also calls on the state to strengthen their border defense, especially with India along Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh region and also along the northeast. It also aims to support economic and social development. And with respect to economic and social development, China aims to improve public services and infrastructure and also support people's life and work. So what we understand is that apart from legitimizing its disputed territorial claim, it also wants to improve public services, infrastructure and also participate in social development to ensure that the people of the region supports China's claim on its territory. Now in this regard, the Chinese government wants coordination with respect to development in the areas of defense, social development and also economic development. So the aim of Chinese government is to ensure military mobilization across its borders and also ensure social and economic development of the region through infrastructural development. So with this aspect of troops mobilization along with socio-economic development, the government of China plans to spend close to $30 billion to improve its infrastructure, particularly with respect to roads and railway networks. And this development will be carried on till Indian borders, especially in the autonomous region of Tibet. And this spending of close to $30 billion is as per Chinese new 5-year plan from 2021 to 25. So clearly they are focusing not only on troops mobilization and formalizing their disputed areas along India-China border, but also aiming to develop social and economic infrastructure along the India-China border region, especially in the Tibet region. Now here, Chinese government has started the Lhasa-Nimchi railway project. Now Nimchi is a town which is very close to Arunachal Pradesh. And this route from Lhasa to Nimchi is utilized by the Chinese army to carry its resources. So according to Chinese officials, they say that trains are a key means to transport military personnel, equipment and supplies on a large scale, as it can serve to complement road transport. So basically, all these infrastructural developments, including railways and highways, are being utilized by the Chinese government to mobilize its troops along key disputed areas along India-China border. So this becomes a matter of concern for the government of India, especially with respect to this new law, which aims to legitimize or legalize the disputed area as Chinese area. So it is in this regard, the government of India needs to take important steps to reassure its territorial sovereignty, which is being targeted by China. Now the next news to be discussed appears as an article on page number 9. It says, India's Central Asian outreach. Afghanistan's situation has thrown up challenges for New Delhi. Now India historically has maintained good relation with the Central Asian regions, as this area was also part of Silk Route, which connected Europe and China, and through the Silk Road it also helped in the spread of Buddhism. So India has historical and cultural ties with the Central Asian countries. Now keeping this fact in mind, this article highlights that because of latest changes with respect to geopolitics, especially with respect to resurgence of Taliban in Afghanistan, threats from terrorism not only from Afghanistan but also from surrounding areas in the region, and also growing Chinese dominance because of Belt and Road Initiative and CPEC, provides a good opportunity to ensure that India has its outreach towards Central Asia. And it is in this regard the Foreign Minister of India has been visiting Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan and also Armenia, which is close to the Central Asian countries. Now when we talk about Central Asian countries, it comprises of 5 countries, namely Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. So these 5 countries mainly comprises the Central Asian region, and these 5 countries are very important for India as well, because for India these 5 Central Asian countries are India's extended neighborhood. So when India's foreign minister visited Kyrgyzstan, he extended credit line of $200 million to support developmental projects and also signed a memorandum of understanding, especially with respect to high impact community development projects. Now these projects cater to the development of education, agriculture, livelihood opportunities, etc., and also improves bilateral relationship between two countries. Further, India's foreign minister also attended the 6th Foreign Ministers Conference on CICA, that is Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Asia. Now at the CICA, India's External Affairs Minister highlighted on the importance of connectivity, but also stressed that the aspect of connectivity should not come at the cost of parochial interest, which China is supporting through BRI. And in this regard, most of the Central Asian countries are with India as they are against Chinese dominance with respect to their Belt and Road Initiative projects. Further, with respect to Armenia, India's External Affairs Minister also stressed on socio-economic development of the region and also to build communication network. So we understand that the aspect of communication is important for the Central Asian countries because they are double landlocked, meaning that even their neighboring countries are landlocked. So when India ties with Iran to develop Chabahar port, it also works in the favor of Central Asian countries because it provides an opportunity for these Central Asian countries in terms of facilitating and extending their trade opportunities. So overall, we can say that Central Asian countries are very important for India, not only in terms of historical and cultural relationship which India had in the past, but also because of its strategic importance in terms of connectivity and also in terms of meeting India's energy needs. Further, Central Asian countries are also strategically important for India as the countries are centrally located in India's continental neighborhood or in India's extended neighborhood. Further, with respect to geopolitics, the region is very important for India as by increasing bilateral relation with Central Asian countries, India can counter the increasing influence of China through its Belt and Road Initiative. So with Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan, Central Asia can play a crucial role in India's strategic calculations in the region. And based on this understanding, both the SCO, that is Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and Ashgabat Agreement can allow India access to connectivity networks to facilitate trade and commercial interactions with Central Asian countries and also with Eurasian countries. Further, this will also benefit India in terms of meeting its energy needs, as all the 5 countries of Central Asia are richly endowed with natural and mineral resources. And these 5 Central Asian countries have vast stretches of unexplored minerals including uranium and also oil and gas, making the entire region important for India's economic interest and also to meet India's energy needs. Now with respect to connectivity, because of presence of Pakistan and China on the northern borders and hostile Taliban in Afghanistan as of now, India does not have direct access to these Central Asian countries. And in this backdrop, development of Chabahar port is not only critical for India but also for the Central Asian countries, as it will provide India direct access to the Central Asian countries, and the Central Asian countries will have the opportunity to increase their trade and also diversify their export market, and together this will help to control China's ambitions in the region. So it is in this backdrop, even the Central Asian countries are keen to have India as partner as they seek to diversify their strategic ties with India. And it is in this backdrop, the Central Asian countries have admitted India into the Ashgabat Agreement, allowing India access to connectivity networks to facilitate trade and commercial interactions with both Central Asian and Eurasian countries. And it will also provide India the access to natural resources of the region. Now in this regard, we need to know about the initiatives which has been taken by India with respect to Central Asian countries. So here we need to know about India's Connect Central Asia policy, which is a broad-based approach including political, security, economic and cultural connections and relations. Further, India is also stepping up multilateral engagement with Central Asian partners using the synergy of joint efforts through existing forum such as Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Eurasian Economic Community, and also Customs Union. Further, India has also become a member of SCO, of which majority of the Central Asian countries are members. Further, India is also working on setting up Central Asian e-network with its hub in India to deliver tele-education and also telemedicine connectivity linking all the 5 Central Asian countries. So, this will improve connectivity with respect to education and also medicine. Now, regarding land connectivity, India has reactivated the International North-South Transport Corridor. Further, India recently joined the Ashgabat Agreement, which was instituted in April 2011 to establish an international multimodal transport and transit corridor between Central Asia and Persian Gulf. Now, with respect to economic and humanitarian engagement, India participated in the first meeting of India Central Asia Dialogue, which was held in 2019 in Samarkand in Uzbekistan. Now, through this dialogue, it will help to establish a platform for strengthening cooperation between India and Central Asian countries. Further, through the India Central Asia Business Council, both India and Central Asian countries have agreed for joint working group with respect to energy, agriculture and food processing, textile, tourism, and also in the area of pharmaceuticals and healthcare. And recently, India also participated in the 6th Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Kazakhstan. So all these efforts can be said to be part of initiatives taken by India with respect to increasing its outreach towards Central Asian countries. Now, with respect to these initiatives and opportunities, there are also certain challenges for India with respect to Central Asian region. And the first challenge has also been highlighted in this article with respect to taking over of Afghanistan by Taliban. Now, this is a challenge because takeover of Afghanistan by Taliban has altered India's strategic calculations in the region, as this has also increased Pakistan's influence in Afghanistan. Further, sanctions by United States on Iran has further delayed the full operationalization of Chabahar port, and this has also impacted India's connectivity to Central Asian countries. Now, International North-South Transport Corridor project has witnessed slow progress, which can be said to be due to a number of factors including low trade volumes, incomplete infrastructure, and also sanctions by some countries. Further, China has increasing its clout through its debt trap policy. Now, as a part of debt trap policy, China provides loan to countries which the countries are unable to repay. And in this strategy, China increases its leverage and influence on the countries who has taken financial help in terms of loan by China. So, increasing clout of China through its debt trap policy also becomes one of the challenge for India to increase its influence on the region. Now, regarding the challenges, these can be said to be the way forward with respect to India-Central Asian relationship. So, despite China's growing influence because of its debt trap policy, India needs to continue its good relations with the Central Asian countries to counter this fear of China. Further, India needs to increase its trade and also development and humanitarian aid projects in the Central Asian countries. Further, India also needs to provide direct investment to different Central Asian countries, such as by extending line of credit. As recently, India extended credit line of $200 million to Kyrgyzstan. So similar efforts needs to be replicated with respect to other Central Asian countries as well, as through direct investment, India will be able to reap economic benefits of the region. Further, India also needs to promote closer people-to-people ties with respect to education, knowledge transfer, medicine and healthcare, culture, cuisine, and also tourism. And with respect to multilateral forums, India needs a sustained and continuous engagement at these forums such as Shanghai Cooperation Organization, EAEU, that is Eurasian Economic Union, CICA, that is Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Asia, etc. So these can be said to be the way forward with respect to increasing India's influence in the Central Asian region, as even the Central Asian countries are keen to engage with India at different levels. Thus, this article becomes very important from the perspective of international relation, especially with respect to bilateral relation, regional and global groupings, and agreements involving India or affecting India's interest under GS paper 2 with respect to international relations. So questions in your mains examination can be asked with respect to importance of Central Asian countries, why India should engage with Central Asian countries, what are the challenges with respect to engaging with Central Asian countries, and also the benefits of engaging with Central Asian countries. So after going through this particular analysis, you will be able to address all these questions if asked in your mains examination. So with this understanding, let's take up our next article for discussion. Now the next news to be taken up appears on page number 2. Now this news says e-waste disposal, a mounting headache. The system mostly hinges on informal players like rag pickers. So this news with respect to e-waste disposal and the problems associated with it can be formed a part of GS paper 3, especially with respect to environment, and even questions can be asked in the prelims examination with respect to the subject of e-waste under environment. Now, as per the 2018 report of Associated Chambers of Commerce of India, it highlights that India produces 2 million metric tons of e-waste, but this was as per 2018 report, and the report also suggested that e-waste in India is about to increase significantly and may even cross the 3 million metric tons of e-waste mark. So the question becomes that when we use our laptops and mobiles, it obviously gets old, and of late we are changing our mobiles and laptops quite often. So the question is that where should I dispose my old mobile or my old laptop? Now this particular news highlights certain aspects with respect to e-waste disposal, especially which are collected by the rag pickers. Now even the rag pickers are not much aware about the proper disposal of e-waste. So they simply do it with respect to their daily wages or with respect to their daily earnings. So this particular news can also be seen from the perspective of case study under GS paper 4 with respect to awareness about e-waste disposal. So there is a need for awareness both from the perspective of user of the gadgets like you and me, and also with respect to rag pickers who actually collect these discarded e-waste. Now so far we are talking about e-waste, which can be said to be any old electronic gadgets such as mobile, laptops, old electronics gadgets, old air conditions which are either not working or which we want to dispose of. Now generally what happens is that the working part of these old phones or laptops or ACs again get resold in the market, and only certain other parts of the products get recycled. So the whole issue boils down to number one, lack of awareness with respect to disposing of our e-waste, and also lack of proper infrastructure and also scientific methods with respect to e-waste disposal, because in India disposal of e-waste is handled mostly by the informal sector, which is close to 90% or even more. So while going through this news, we understand that there is a need to create a mechanism to not only collect such e-waste from different colonies of a city through resident welfare association and even through apartments. So the municipal corporation can come up with certain suggestions or mechanisms whereby they can collect these e-waste from these colonies through resident welfare association or even in apartments in particular area or a particular sector. Now with respect to handling of e-waste, this news highlights about two important aspects. One is that these e-waste, which are mostly collected by rag pickers in the informal market, get recycled, especially those e-waste which are collected in bulk from big firms or big tech companies. Whereas on the other hand, the core part of these old devices or old electronic gadgets are dismantled and again resold in the market because they are in high demand. But there are certain health and environmental risks associated with selling these old devices back in the market because they contain certain important or precious elements which when exposed may cause certain adverse health impacts. So these can be said to be some of the problems with respect to handling e-waste. First being, it is mostly done by informal sector who lacks awareness as to how to handle these e-waste. Next, these e-waste contain several precious metals, rare earth metals and even ferrous and non-ferrous metals including glass, woods, plastic, etc. So these rag pickers in the informal sector are very much unaware about these precious elements or precious metals which form part of the e-waste. Another problem associated with handling of e-waste is unscientific ways of disposal of e-waste obviously because of lack of awareness and also because of lack of infrastructure in a city, as these unscientific ways of disposal of e-waste can lead to certain health and even environmental impacts. Now, most of the e-waste is valuable as it is highly rich in metals such as copper, iron, tin, nickel, lead, zinc, silver, gold, and even palladium. Now, the printed circuit boards often contain rare and precious metals such as ruthenium, rhodium, palladium, osmium, iridium, and even platinum, which are together referred as platinum group metals. So there must be a mechanism to reutilize these precious metals. Further, with respect to health and environmental impacts, e-waste comprises hazardous constituents such as lead, cadmium, chromium, brominated flame retardants, or polychlorinated biphenyls, that is PCBs, which contaminate soil, water, and even food. So unscientific method to dispose e-waste may impact our health and also contaminate soil, water, and even food. Now, other problems associated with disposal of e-waste is that most of the time these e-waste are disposed in the fields and also along river banks or riverbeds. Now, what happens is that some of the metals gets dissolved or composed either in the water or in the soil, thereby contaminating or polluting both soil and water. This contamination of water not only impacts humans but also the marine life. Further, there are also other health impacts as children living close to these dumps or landfills of untreated e-waste gets impacted. Now, other problems associated with the e-waste is non-environmentally sound practices of disposing them. For example, in order to recover copper, at times rack pickers burn the cable wires. Now, this not only leads to air pollution but also impacts health of such operators. Now, most of these operators burning cables belong to the informal sector and their livelihood depends on daily wages. So, non-scientific way to handle these e-waste impacts the vulnerable section of the population, especially with respect to their health. Now, another problem is lack of environmentally sound technology to handle e-waste management. And one of the major reasons is because of high cost in setting up advanced recycling plant to tackle different kinds of e-waste. Now, another problem is that despite registered recycler units of e-waste being there, because of lack of awareness, most of the e-waste are sold to regular rack pickers for easy money. And because of this, these registered recycler units are deprived of regular supply of e-waste for recycling. So these can be said to be some of the problems associated with recycling of e-waste in India. Now, in order to regulate the disposal of e-waste, Government of India came up with e-waste management rules of 2016, which was later amended in the year 2018. Now, an important point to be understood here is that these e-waste management rules has been framed under the Environment Protection Act of 1986, and these rules are issued by Central Pollution Control Board, which functions under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Now, one of the most important aspects highlighted by e-waste management rule is that of extended producer responsibility. So, under the EPR mechanism, the producer are given a significant responsibility with respect to treatment or disposal of post-consumer products. So, suppose if a producer is producing shampoo, then disposing the shampoo bottles becomes the responsibility of the producer as per the EPR mechanism. So the whole idea behind EPR mechanism is that when producer is given the responsibility to manage the waste, then the producers come up with new technology or better technology to manage the waste as well. So it says that the purpose of extended producer responsibility is to assign such responsibility, which could in principle provide incentives to prevent waste at the source, promote product design for the environment, and also support achievement of public recycling and materials management goals. So these can be said to be some of the objective which is to be achieved through extended producer responsibility. And this EPR mechanism has also been incorporated as a part of e-waste management rules. So, recognizing the potential of the formal e-waste recycling sector in alleviating the environmental issues caused by unscientific methods of handling and disposal of e-waste, Government of India has taken the following new initiatives, especially with respect to e-waste management rules of 2016 and 2018. So the first is regarding extended producer responsibility, and this aspect is based on polluter pays principle, as it makes the producers responsible to collect the end of life product or waste which they have created in the first place. So this concept of extended producer responsibility is based on polluter pay principle. So this says that so far 1151 producers of electrical and electronic equipments in the country have been given EPR authorization by Central Pollution Control Board. So this becomes an important point from your pre-perspective. That is, EPR authorization is given by Central Pollution Control Board. Further, it talks about boosting the formal e-waste recycling industry. So the amendment made to the e-waste management rules of 2016 was made with the objective to channelize e-waste generated in India towards authorized dismantlers and recyclers in order to formalize the e-waste recycling sector. Further, the government is in the process to develop an online mass balance system to monitor e-waste flow in India. So this will help in understanding how much e-waste is generated in the country. So this online mass balance system would enable automated data management, transparency, will help in reduce administrative burden of authorities, and also shift from traditional paper-based system to electronic recording and better enforcement of EPR provisions of rules of 2018. Further, conducting a national inventory of e-waste, and in this regard, all state pollution control boards, pollution control committees have been mandated to develop inventories of e-waste in their respective states and union territories. Now, another aspect highlighted here is regarding facilitating the producer responsibility organization. So the e-waste rules provide producers with the option of using producer responsibility organizations to implement extended producer responsibility. So these PROs shall apply to Central Pollution Control Board for registration to undertake activities as per the rules. And these rules have also added the aspect of reduction of hazardous substances provision. So as per these provision of reduction of hazardous substances, the cost of sampling and testing shall be borne by the government for conduction of this particular test. So if the product does not comply with RoHS provision, that is reduction of hazardous substances provision, then the cost of the test will be borne by the producers. And if the product complies with the RoHS provision, then the cost for sampling and testing shall be borne by the government. So these are some of the important highlights with respect to e-waste management rules, which has been published under Environment Protection Act of 1986. Thus, this topic of e-waste becomes very important both from our prelims and mains perspective. Question can be asked with respect to environment in the prelims, and in the mains, question can be asked with respect to the problems associated with e-waste in India. So I'm sure after going through this discussion, you will be able to write answers if asked on the problems of e-waste in India. So after understanding this topic on e-waste, let's take up next two topics, especially from the perspective of our prelims examination. So this news appears on page number 7, and it says villages on Periyar banks in alert mode. Water level in Mullaperiyar dam rising. Now in this news we need to know that Mullaperiyar dam is located in the Cardamom Hills in the Western Ghats in the state of Kerala, and this dam has been built upon the Periyar river. Now Periyar river is the longest river in Kerala, and this originates from Shivsagari Hills in Western Ghats, flows through the Periyar National Park and reaches the Periyar Lake. Now once it reaches the Periyar Lake, the water then flows to Vembanad Lake and then finally flows to the Arabian Sea. Another important point is that Periyar Lake Dam is maintained by Tamil Nadu government. So in this news we understood about Mullaperiyar Dam, which is located in Kerala in the Idukki district, and this dam has been built upon the Periyar river. Now Periyar river is the longest river in Kerala, originates from Shivsagari Hills in Western Ghats, flows through Periyar National Park and reaches the Periyar Lake. From there it flows through the Vembanad Lake and finally drains into the Arabian Sea. And Periyar Lake Dam is maintained by Tamil Nadu government. Now this news becomes important from the perspective of environment and geography. Now the next news taken from Prelims perspective is Leopard released into the wild, and here it talks about Satpura Tiger Reserve. So the Satpura Tiger Reserve, which is also a national park, that is Satpura National Park, is located in the Satpura ranges, which lies in Madhya Pradesh in the Hoshangabad district. So Satpura Tiger Reserve is located in Madhya Pradesh. Satpura basically means seven folds, which forms a watershed between Narmada and Tapti river in a triangular shape. So this Satpura range is a range of hills in central India, and the range rises in eastern Gujarat and runs east through the border of Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh, and finally ends in Chhattisgarh. So the four states associated with Satpura range are Gujarat, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, and fourth is Chhattisgarh. It then says that the range parallels the Vindhya range to the north, that is Vindhya range lies in the north. Now let's look at this particular map of Satpura Hills. So this is the Satpura Hills and this is the Vindhya range. So the Vindhya range lies in the north, and as you can see, the Satpura range starts from eastern Gujarat towards Madhya Pradesh, and also certain parts of it lies in Maharashtra and ends in Chhattisgarh. So it says that the range parallels the Vindhya range to the north, and these two east-west ranges divide Indian subcontinent into the Indo-Gangetic plain of northern India and Deccan plateau of southern India. So these two ranges, namely the Vindhya range and the Satpura ranges, divides India into the Indo-Gangetic plain and Deccan India. Thus, this particular news with respect to Satpura Tiger Reserve, you need to know that Satpura Tiger Reserve is located in Madhya Pradesh, and the Satpura range extends from eastern Gujarat till Chhattisgarh, including Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. So this topic becomes important from the perspective of geography and Indian map, and also from the perspective of environment. So after this discussion of these two news from Prelims perspective, let's take up the question for the day. Now based on our discussion, this becomes your practice question for the day. So the question is, consider the following statements. First, India is among the top 5 e-waste producing countries in the world with estimated annual production of 2 million tons. Second, e-waste contains several precious metals such as rare earth metals, ferrous and non-ferrous metals, and also plastic, woods and glass. So the question is, which of the statements given above is are correct? Options are A, 1 only, B, 2 only, C, both 1 and 2, and D, neither 1 nor 2. Now coming to the answer of yesterday, the question was, consider the following statements regarding virtual reality and augmented reality. Options were AR, that is augmented reality, uses a real world setting while virtual reality is complete virtual. Second, AR users can control their presence in the real world, whereas VR users are controlled by the system. Third, VR requires a headset device, but AR can be accessed with a smartphone. And fourth, AR enhances both the virtual and real world, while VR only enhances a fictional reality. So the question was, which of the statements given above are incorrect? In this, all the statements given above were correct. So here the correct answer becomes D, that is none of the above. So with this, we come to an end to today's analysis. Thank you for watching DNS.